we have with us Kim Cayer, an actress, entertainer, and author, originally from Manitoba and currently living in Mississauga. Thank you, Kim, so much for your presence today. So first of all, let's talk about your new book called Kitty Casino. What is it about?
There it is. It's about a girl. She was a wild one growing up. She had 3 kids before she was an adult even. And then she wasn't born to be a mother. So she takes off when she's like 20 years old. She leaves the 3 kids with her mother to raise. And she ends up being a road manager for a rock band for 15 years. They finally kick her out because she's getting too old for them. And she's broke. She's got to go back home. And she finds out that her mother is now addicted to the slot machines at the casino and is showing very big signs of getting old. Mm-hmm. So she's, and you know, the main character, Tammy, she's very self-centered. She's all about herself. And this is new. She never took care of her own kids. Now she's got to take care of her mother.
So it's quite an unconventional family, right?
Yes. Maybe because I'm from one. I don't know.
Yes, that's what I was going. It was not that question was not so specific, but is this family and Tammy inspired by real people, by a real family?
You know, people always ask, are your books are they fiction or nonfiction? They are nonfiction. I mean, they are fictional, but I pull a little bit from my real life. I was the one who sort of was maybe the late bloomer when it came to having children. And I moved out away from Toronto. I moved to Vancouver. I was trying to be an actress. I was an actress. I actually did pretty good, but I was, not meant for marriage and things like that. Mm-hmm. But the main person that I turned out okay. But the mother in this book, Kitty Casino, I did base that on a real person for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the universe of teenagers is quite present in the book. Do you have some advice for parents that also deal with rebellious teenagers?
I'm going to tell everybody, prepare for grade 9, because for me, grade 9, my little angelic children, and they all turned out quite well. They're all working and happy and adjusted. But grade 9, they must have thought that it was party time, because I was getting daily phone calls, so-and-so has skipped this period and that period, some whole days. And I'm like, dudes, I dropped you off at school. The whole day. And I was finally blocking that number. It was so stressful to get those calls. And even at my oldest child's graduation, they even mentioned it. If there was an award to be given for skipping school, Cheyenne would win this award. So I'm like, oh, yay. But, listen to them. That's what I'm going to say. Definitely all 3 of them felt confident in coming to me, asking me questions, even though they might have been of any kind of a nature. I was just, you can always talk to me, and I'm not going to be judgmental.
So having an open dialogue with your children is very important.
Yes, very so, Teresa. So you're always trying to prepare them. And I mean, there's things I've told them since they were young, about boys and how they, how they think first, and I told them, a lot of things, a lot of wars are fought over love, romance. So I just tried to prepare them for what lays ahead. But also, I guess at some point they got to live their own life. Mm-hmm. One of my kids now lives away from home, and I have learned to stop wondering where she is at every minute of the day. But the other 2, and both of them are in their 20s, I'm like, it's 1:30 in the morning. Why aren't you home? So I guess until they move out, I'm going to always be worrying.
Of course. Besides being a writer, you are also an entertainer, right? And I saw some very interesting and funny pictures of you with a clown costume, for example. And did you somehow bring that experience also of being an entertainer to the book?
I bought that experience just coincidentally. I happen to have my books here, and this one was my last. Before Kitty Casino was my last one. This was the second one, No Fire Escape in Hell. That's where I use a lot of my, I used to do a lot of singing telegrams, among other jobs like clowning, magician, so many. But the singing telegram, I use that a lot in my last book. In this one, Tammy, her skills are almost minimal because she didn't finish high school. She wasn't all about education. She was all about living life for the moment. So, she was a wild one until she gets back home and has to look after dear old, mommy dearest.
From what I understand, it's a comedy, but also a drama kind of story. Is that right?
Yeah, you got that right, Teresa. All my books, you would think if I talked about them that they're so like, oh, that sounds like serious, a serious issue you're talking about. Because the last one, No Fire Escape in Hell, that was about living without a home. So she lived in her car because she was coming from a bad marriage. My last one, Kitty Casino, deals with addictions. It deals with a casino, gambling addiction. And it also deals a lot with caring for the elderly. And how to, accept their
vulnerabilities.
Yeah. And then my first one that I had published, the first one was an ebook. I self-published that one. But this one got published, Lights, Camera, Dissatisfaction. And that was totally about, this is what I drew a lot about from my own experience, because I used to be a lot into the film business. And, that was a hard business with a lot of no's, you're not good enough. You are too tall. You have too big a nose. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a hurtful business. Yes. So instead of going crazy or whining or being a real negative personality, I took out my frustrations on my keyboard and I would write books that were like this one. It was about the film business and being rejected. It had a lot to do with rejection, but somehow it turned out to be like one of the funniest books. I even had somebody say we should make a movie out of this one, but that didn't take place. But it was, nice to have that in the works for a minute. So a lot, and then my next book that is not published yet is another addiction or a problem. Again, told in such a funny, comedic manner. So everybody says my books are funny.
Yes, but maybe it's a good way of approaching difficult topics, like trying to make a bit fun out of them, so it doesn't get too heavy or too depressive.
Oh my goodness, you should be, on tour with me.
Let's do it.
But that's exactly it. You just don't want to, I never ever want to write a book that people are going to be like, oh, I didn't finish it. And the last, people have said to me, I read your book, it's a big fat book and I read it in 3 days, or it was always within reach. And if I wasn't doing something, I was reading. So, it's kind of embarrassing to have to toot my own horn, but that's one thing I think I can say, that I do write a good book. My next one too, I think, I'll let you do. Should I talk about the next one?
Of course. We are interested.
That one is called, the working title is called The Book of Boys. And it's about a girl who has the first time she has, goes to bed with somebody. It's so amazing that she comes to expect that kind of experience every time. And it never is that high. She never gets that high again. So she develops a sexual addiction.
She's also a teenager?
When she first starts off, she's like in the last year of high school, and then she goes through her life. trying to find like this perfect man, and it's ruining relationships for her. But again, it's like, it's funny, and it's not a sexy book, because I have never, ever been able to read them, watch them, write about it. I will write about sex, I will say it happened or they did it, but I don't get into details. It's not my thing.
Yes, I understand. So what do you prefer doing? Do you prefer acting or writing?
Writing all day.
Yes.
I mean, the entertainment business has been very, very good to me. That's how I make my living, how I supported my family. But writing is when I find I can really be, when I'm performing, I'm somebody else. I'm being a clown. I'm being silly cuckoo. I do Marilyn Monroe right across the country. All these characters. And again, I guess when I'm writing, I'm not being myself, but I feel true to myself. I feel that I'm in my zone. I'm in my happy place.
So you feel more authentic when you write.
Yes, that's for sure.
But was it like a late passion for you? Did it bloom like later in life?
No, I actually was writing a lot as I grew up. I was always creating little novels, little, cartoons. I always liked to write. I had the highest grade in my English classes. And then I wrote my first book, Dirty Numbers. It was a memoir based on a crazy job that I held. And I thought people were not going to believe that this kind of job exists. So I wrote about it. And then I never quite finished that book. Then I got married and started having children. And oh my goodness, do they ever stop your creativity in one way? I need to sit down and write for an hour. It could be just like a letter to my mother, my shopping list. I just got to get the juices flowing. And then when you have a kid in the background, I'm hungry, or I'll wake my bum. Sorry. I was just like, no, I'm busy. And so I never could get, like I said, in the zone when I was raising my kids. But then when they got a little bit older, when I was not having to look after them 24/7, when the youngest one was maybe, we'll say 8, 9, I was so back into it. And
does it somehow work as a therapy also for you writing?
Seriously. And I thought that during COVID, I would be, everybody, I had no job. You go from having the best job in the world to just being shut down. Like nobody, you couldn't entertain anywhere or come close to people. And I thought, oh, this is going to be perfect. First of all, I thought it was going to be only 2 weeks, but I guess it went a little bit longer. And in that whole 2 years, when I thought that I was going to be so prolific, I only edited. All I could do is just edit the casino and then the next book coming out. But I didn't write anything. I don't know. I just didn't feel motivated. But for therapy, like for this one, I was in the film business going crazy. So I really had to release my anger.
Yes.
I was in my marriage at the time was in very rough shape. And I did tell my kids at one point, you know what? I think mommy's going to go live in her car for a little while. And they were so against the idea. So instead of doing that, I started, venting again on the computer. And this book came out, which actually hit #1 for a whole week. And then this one here, oh my gosh. So my husband and I parted ways. And then I thought he would take his mother with him, but he didn't. He left her with me. And she loved the casinos. And I never even been to one before that. And I really thought that it was like, I was going to set foot into one and it was going to be like the devil going, aha, we got you now.
So it's interesting because somehow you bring like your own difficulties and challenges in life to your writing and somehow organize them. It's very interesting.
And on it, I can make, the main character a little bit like the real character, or, bring in other things. So they were like the building blocks, but I needed to, I was not a big, even though I dedicated it to my mother-in-law, the one who I was, forced to live with, we weren't the best of friends, but she was elderly and I had to look after her and I had to bring her, every time I had a job, she would say, or I should say a gig, she would say, oh, where is this one? Is it near any kind of a casino? And I would say, it's near one, but I'm working for 8 hours at this. They want 8 hours of face painting at this ski resort. I won't be able to pick you up for 10 hours. That's okay. That's okay. And
but were you aware at that time that she was addicted already?
When I used to say, like, where are you going all this time? Are you taking all these bus rides? That's where I found out she was going to the casino. But they were a long bus ride. And then when she saw that I was trying to make life easier for her, her son was no longer around. So, if I was going near a casino, it's not that hard to drop her off here, there. And then finally, a deal came in the mail and I said, wow, that's a cheap hotel rate at Casino Rama. And I love hotels. So, we went there and she never even entered the hotel room once. He hit the casino floor and I picked her up at checkout the next morning on the floor. Yeah.
How do you deal with this kind of addiction?
Well, when I started eventually to join her, or sometimes I would, go and pick her up and she'd say, oh, come on in, I'm not done yet. Or I'm on a machine, I still got this much money. So I would go in and then I was like the cheapest little gambler you would ever see, 5 cents. So, and I used all that in my book. I based Tammy a lot on my stingy ways and my interpretation of what a casino was, wherein it turned out to be just it's actually a pretty fun place for adults. There's not a lot of places for adults to visit, right?
And to play.
And, so it's not that I have become addicted to them, but I certainly am fond of them. Although post-COVID, they have gone up a lot in everything. Like everything has gone up, but even those, it's hard to find a 5 cent bet now.
I also, in my research, I found out that you also teach in creative writing workshops, right? Do you plan any workshop soon? And what kind of things do you teach there?
Well, I did a basic creative writing workshop for the Ontario Métis Nation like 2 months ago. And then the Mississauga Arts Council suggested me for a one-night event. And it sounds like really like maybe not the most exciting because it's called Civic Engagement Through Creative Writing.
Okay.
When I got the job, I was like, I don't even get it.
Let's be creative about it.
So I had, I like, hey Siri, my phone's right here. Like, yes. I had to ask her what civic meant and then what civic engagement meant. And then I was like, oh, okay, I know. I can expand on this. I could teach 3 hours. I'm so busy these days with when COVID for me ended was on March the 14th. And that's when it actually started 2 years previous of, in 2020 and 2021 were just so from March 14th on of 2020. And then I got one show on stage on March 14th of 2022. And my phone was going insane. I had it on silent, but I had it. So in front of the audience, I had to say, excuse me, because I thought there's a problem at home. And I looked and it was just job after job. And since March 14th of last year, it's become insane with the work. And that's all I feel like and I think I went through a little bit of a anger period where at my job, because it was denying me working at writing. I was never had any chance to write. And people are having parties at 10 a.m. in the morning. Like, what up with that?
Yeah.
So I'm leaving the house at 8:30 and I'm coming back at 11:30 at night. And like, I'm beat. So,
one of my last questions, I'm very curious to ask you this, is would you describe yourself as an unconventional woman, and did you ever felt judged by society for being an entertainer, for instance?
oh my gosh. When I first left my hometown, I grew up in Manitoba, like you said, and I had a nice stable job, Winnipeg Police Department. I was doing well. And then I started acting, and oh my gosh, I fell in love. Acting, I love acting. I mean, I'm talking about film acting. Because what I do right now with the magician work and the clown work, that's a lot of energy output. So, but when it was film acting, and I did a couple of, for a while in Toronto, I think I was called like the queen of the B movies, but they were all like the scary movies, the indie movies. And then I got the big CBC miniseries, and that was 2 years of, very respectable work. But when I first left, my mom had half my relatives write me letters, saying, it's fine to dream big, but what you're dreaming of. And then I would come home for visits, and they're like, are you still in the entertainment business? Oh, yeah. I said, are you dancing? And I knew what that meant. Like, well, I'm acting.
And maybe it was worse at the time, So some years ago, maybe people were even more close-minded than they are today.
Very much. And just everything I even, I wanted to do. I lived by myself in this big antique apartment. It's like, oh, you should always have people living with you. But the whole thing was, and then I moved. I don't know if I was the first one to ever move out of the province away from, my mom.
You were ahead of your time for sure.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then I also used to drive a motorcycle. Like, who did that?
But it was all worth it. Thinking about your present now, of course.
When I think about my present right this minute with my 3 kids, I got 4 books out there that people can read. I have another one already ready to go. I have a great job. I'm making a good living. There's really not much more than I can ask for other than more computer knowledge.
Okay, that's easy. If it's just that it's missing, it's easy. You will learn.
Complete me.
You will learn for sure. So, Kim, do you have any final message you would like to leave to our Portuguese community?
What can I tell you guys? I'm just so honored that you have even lasted this long, stayed with us.
Of course.
And I do hope you give my books a look at, because I would almost guarantee you right now, you're not going to be disappointed. You're going to laugh. Every second page, you're going to have some very good laughs. You can get them on Amazon, amazon.ca or amazon.com. And I just want all of you guys to be well.